поступили мимо Вишневского, поселок Новый, мимо Вишневского, поселок Новый. Вот.
A large fire broke out at a rubber footwear factory in Krasnogorsk, a suburb of Moscow. Smoke columns are visible even from Moscow, reports Russian telegram channels. Local communities in Krasnogorsk say the plant producing galoshes and rubber shoes is burning fiercely. Witnesses report that smoke is visible not only in Krasnogorsk, but also from different districts of Moscow. Smoke is currently visible from various parts of the city. Residents of several Moscow districts have also noticed it, wrote the telegram channel MASH. The cause of the fire remains unknown. However, about 10 kilometers from the city where the fire broke out is the residence of Russian President Vladimir Putin. This is where Putin lives and holds Security Council meetings. The residence in Novo-Ogaryovo is considered one of Russia's most secretive sites. Putin owns several residences across Russia, including in Gelendzhik and Valdai and Novo-Ogaryov. Regarding the Gelendzhik residence, it includes a large palace, a church, a wine cellar, a private casino, a dendrarium, and a hockey rink. The cliffside property overlooks the Black Sea. It is well concealed by a vast forest and a special security zone. There is also a bunker on the site which Putin reportedly favors. His attachment to bunkers is so strong that he has been nicknamed the Bunker Man. On the Eastern Front, Ukrainian reconnaissance located and helped destroy a Russian Tor-M2 surface-to-air missile system valued at about $25 million, informs the Khortytsia Operational and Strategic Grouping of Troops. Thanks to the skilled actions of reconnaissance soldiers from the 15th Separate Brigade of Artillery Reconnaissance Black Forest, Ukrainian forces detected and adjusted fire on the Russian Tor-M2 short-range air defense missile. The destruction of key weapons of the Russian army reduces the enemy's combat capabilities for an extended period, the Khortytsia grouping said. The short-range Tor-M2 system is designed for air and missile defense tasks. It protects critical military facilities and ground troops. The estimated value of this system is $25 million. Russian military losses exceeded 1,200 personnel over the past 24 hours. Ukrainian forces also destroyed 2 tanks, 5 armored combat vehicles, 54 artillery systems, 2 multiple rocket launchers, 1 air defense system, 145 operational tactical level drones, and 109 enemy vehicles. At the same time, the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine reported that Ukrainian troops struck 14 important Russian positions on the front yesterday. The threat is real to NATO, the chief of the British Army has said, warning of serious challenges to the alliance as worries swirl that Russia could launch an attack on NATO in the next few years. We really have got some serious challenges to deal with collectively, General Sir Rolly Walker, the head of the British Army, said during an address at the UK-based think tank, the Royal United Services Institute. The biggest challenge we face of many is simply a lack of time, Walker said, adding a sense of urgency is needed to respond to the threats we face. NATO officials have been increasingly ringing alarm bells over how much of a threat Russia will pose to the alliance in the next few years, particularly after inking a possible ceasefire deal in Ukraine that would free up hundreds of thousands of soldiers bogged down along the front lines. Assessments vary, but one judgment from Denmark's Defense Intelligence Service, published in February, said it believed Russia would be able to wage a large-scale war against NATO in the next 5 years if the U.S. declines to be involved. Ole Ivashchenko, the head of Ukraine's Foreign Intelligence Service, said earlier this week Russia would be able to mount some form of attack on Europe 2 to 4 years after the end of the Ukraine war, but could be ready to do so much quicker if sanctions are lifted. The more than 3 years of full-scale war in Ukraine has wreaked havoc on Moscow's land forces, but other swathes of its military, like its air force and much of the Navy stationed away from Ukraine, have been largely unscathed. Recent satellite imagery has indicated Russia is building out its bases close to the Finnish border. The construction appears to be part of a longer-looking effort to expand Russian military facilities in spitting distance of NATO, the New York Times reported earlier this month. Military personnel in Finland say they are well aware of Russia's activity close to the border. Officials across the alliance have warned Russia is adept at hybrid warfare, a term that broadly refers to tactics designed to undermine or destabilize opponents but falling short of open conflict. In recent months, several undersea cables in the NATO-dominated Baltic Sea have been cut or damaged in one of the most high-profile sets of hybrid incidents. Some observers feel Russia is more likely to up its more covert attacks or use troops formerly fighting in Ukraine to bite off a small chunk of NATO, taste-testing how the alliance might respond. Spurred on by vociferous criticism from President Donald Trump's administration, NATO members across Europe have pledged to up defense spending, which fell at the end of the Cold War. Trump, ahead of his re-election, suggested he would encourage Russia to attack NATO members he deemed to be falling short of their contributions to the alliance. Trump officials have proposed that European members of NATO dedicate 5% of their GDP to defense, far above the previous alliance-wide target of 2% that is still not met by a handful of members. The U.S., while the most important player in NATO, does not itself spend 5% of its GDP on defense. European officials concede the U.S. has long requested the continent invest more in its own armed forces and widely see dramatic spikes in defense spending as necessary and overdue. The U.S., which has provided long-running security for much of Europe, has indicated will make plans to reduce America's military footprint in Europe in the coming months. "We got the memo," Walker added. "It took a couple of attempts, but we got it." The Unmanned Systems Battalion of the 65th Mechanized Brigade carried out a series of strikes on Russian armored vehicles positioned deep in the rear of the invaders in the Zaporizhzhia region. Footage of the strikes was released on the Ronin's unit's channel. The drones of the 65th Mechanized Brigade struck 5 Russian BTR-82 armored personnel carriers that were carelessly stationed in open-area hangars. The operators managed to quickly deploy 10 strike FPV drones at long range, preventing the enemy forces from moving their equipment out of the strike zone. The Ukrainian geospatial intelligence project War Archive geolocated the position depicted in the footage, showing Russian armored vehicles east of the village of Rivne, the Zaporizhzhia region. The targeted assets were situated approximately 35 to 40 kilometers from the front line, which likely contributed to the enemy's complacent deployment of equipment. This range remains challenging for standard FPV drones to reach and is classified as a rear operational zone. It is highly probable that strikes at this distance were enabled by the use of a mothership drone, which transports strike drones over extended ranges and serves as a relay for radio communications. Currently, FPV drones equipped with fiber optic communication systems are predominantly used for flights over such long distances. This technology allows operations under any conditions without the risk of losing control. Recently, the drones operated by the Magyar's Birds unit struck armored vehicles at a record distance of 42 kilometers. An external pilot guided a drone into a hangar where, as was later revealed, the tanks and infantry fighting vehicles of the occupiers were concealed. Previously, the operators of the Defense Intelligence of Ukraine also struck a Russian fuel train, transporting fuel through the occupied territories of the Zaporizhzhia region using drones. According to an analysis by the Cyberboroshno community, the rolling stock was hit near the village of Novobodanivka in the Melitopol district, located deep in the rear approximately 50 kilometers from the front line. As noted by the Defense Intelligence of Ukraine, at least 3 fuel tank cars were destroyed by the drones. This strike is significant for disrupting the invaders' logistics, as they strongly rely on railway fuel and equipment transportation. The large landing ship Vladimir Andreev for Russia's Pacific Fleet was launched at the Yantar shipyard. This was reported by the publication Paluba.media. The ship was launched on May 30, 2025, at the Yantar Baltic shipyard, where a solemn ceremony was held. A large landing ship of Project 117111 named Vladimir Andreev was launched. The ship is the 3rd landing ship of this project to be launched. It is expected to strengthen the Russian Navy's landing capabilities in the Pacific region from 2026, when it is scheduled to be included in the fleet. Project 11711, developed by the Nevsky Design Bureau, features a modernized ship architecture with an extended flight deck for helicopters in the stern. These large landing ships are the largest ships built for the Russian Navy in modern times in terms of displacement. The ships of this type are designed to transport Marines and military equipment. They can carry multi-purpose or transport and combat helicopters on their decks. Currently, the Yantar shipyard is also building another large landing ship of this design, the Vasily Trushin. The landing ships of this design have a displacement of 5,000 tons, standard, and 6,600 tons, full, and are capable of transporting up to 300 military personnel along with equipment, up to 13 tanks, or up to 36 IFVs and APCs. Earlier, Militarny reported that the Russian shipyard Admiralteyskiy Verfy, part of the United Shipbuilding Corporation, launched the ice-class patrol ship Nikolai Zubov, Project 23550. The contract for the construction of 2 patrol ships of this project was signed on April 25, 2016. The construction of the lead ship, Ivan Papanin, began in September 2016, and the keel-laying ceremony took place on April 19, 2017. The lead ship was launched on October 25, 2019. But it was not until June 28, 2024, that the Ivan Papanin left St. Petersburg for shipyard sea trials.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Also, if you want to support Warthog Defense, please become our member and get early access to new videos, exclusive members-only videos, and become administrator in comment section. The membership link is in the description.
Rescues every day. We had a guy last week at 6 rescues in 6 days. You know, he's doing the job every day.